Hello, everyone. I do apologize tonight if my voice isn't so great. My my voice is kind of strained from the hunting weekend, and I'm a bit tired. Anyways, tonight's story is "That's Not Me" by Joey Horist. That wasn't me. How many times do I have to say it? David Chambers grievously massaged his eyelids and slumped back into his chair. What was the point of this? The sheer number of times recounted the story gave him a throbbing headache. David, calm down, Dr. Olivia Shepard instructed with a material-like stoicism. I fucked that one up. Okay. David, calm down, Dr. Olivia Shepard instructed with a material-like stoicism and serenity. Think with your head. You were caught on camera. Who else could it have been? David grabbed the cane next to his chair and shook it violently. Beats me. I'm not good with names, but faces, I know those. And I am certain that wasn't my fucking clone on the video. Dr. Shepard grew confused. She leaned forward in her chair and focused her eyes on David as she adjusted her curved, studious-looking eyeglasses. Just breathe. Start from the beginning, she instructed. You think I'm crazy, don't you? Of course not. David began the long and hellish walk down memory lane. Each nightmare was worse than the other. I first saw him about a month ago. Dr. Shepard jotted notes down as he spoke. What did he look like? David glanced over at an old TV and VCR sitting between him and the doctor. That was new. Hey, what's this for? He asked. Later, David. Come on now, try to stay focused. No distractions. What did he look like? I told you. It was me. He recalled every detail of himself that came to mind. His cold gray eyes, long and ovate face, squared chiseled jaw, his tall thin build and his short top, black hair with a cowlick that poked up above his left ear. Dr. Shepard raised her hand that was holding her pen, signaling for his traffic jam of a conversation to come to a halt. Let me stop you right there. In our last session, you mentioned the cowlick being on the other side. David stopped and thought to himself for a moment. I did? Everything was reversed. We even dressed the same. Did he have a cane too? No, he didn't. See? Good job. There you go. With what? He smashed his cane against the wall. It's the same bullshit every session. How many times do I gotta repeat myself? As many times as it takes, David. Her voice had turned from a caring mother to a chastising school teacher. As long as it takes to help you understand that there is only one you. Did I ever tell you that I was a twin? She sighed. In just about every session. He died when you were 11 years old. Enough with the conspiracy theories. Focus on the present. She glanced down at David's legs. They were anxiously fluttering about, the right leg in particular. How have you been feeling? Okay, I suppose, he answered. Are you taking your medication? The Abilify? It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I choke it down. What about exercising? David said nothing. He shrugged his shoulders and slumped a little lower in his chair. Now, we talked about this. With sarcopenia, you gotta stay as active as you can. Physical activity does the body good, releases endorphins to help make you happy, not to mention the mental benefits. Yeah. Is this what you get paid $6 a minute for? To teach me shit I learned in health class? Tell me something I don't know. Dr. Shepard had the wit of a loaded six-gun. She quickly fired back with a snappy comment. If you used your gym membership instead of ogling girls in yoga pants for $60 a month, you might land a date with one. Wouldn't a social life be nice? That was a low blow. In his physical prime, David had a build that was of the living interpretation of Michelangelo's statue of David, and his James Bond and his James Bond-style good looks made him popular with the ladies. Now, it was all being taken away from him, all because of an advanced case of sarcopenia, a word he never heard before and can hardly pronounce. Now a scrawny, withering body rested where perfectly toned arms and a six-pack of abs used to call home. I was just on a date not too long ago. You know that, he snapped back. That was when I first saw him. Who? Him. Me. The other me. Let's talk about that night again. I'd rather not. He tried to think of an excuse he could get out of this. Time's up anyway. We have plenty of time. Talk and don't waste it. David shut his eyes and tried to remember everything he could. Each deep breath he took propelled another part of him back to another time. First his body, then his mind. The walls of claustrophobic doctor's office melted away as David vividly navigated the memory of his date. A couple weeks prior, David had a date with Allison Graham, a lovely young soul he met the way most people do at this age of technology, through a cell phone. After 3 weeks of chatting through video calls and text messages, the pair had finally agreed to meet. It was to be a delightful dinner for two at the quaint Ristorante di Specie. This was the first date that David could remember being on for some time, and he would bring his A game. Even though he didn't have the body of an athlete anymore, he maintained an unfaltering pride that made sure he looked his best. He arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes earlier, dressed in a Spanish gray two-piece suit. He tugged at the collar of his white shirt, trying to breathe. The slim fit of the material of the suit made him waver and itch with anxiety. Cluster his cane in his hand, he lurched his way over to the bar and ordered a scotch and soda. He took a small, deliberate sips from the glass and periodically glanced down at his watch. The agreed-upon meeting time came and still. Allison wasn't there. He took one last gulp from his drink and beckoned the bartender to order another. 30 or more minutes had passed. She still wasn't there. He pulled out his cell phone and dialed Allison's number and placed it to his ear. And it rang twice before he could hear a prominent ringing from across the room. Over the dull, mundane chit-chat of the other patrons, looking around to determine the source of the noise, David could see a lone woman sitting at a square table, draped in a tablecloth, with a dimly lit candle decorating the center. "Hello," a voice spoke into the phone. "Hey there, Allison, it's me. I see you there. Don't move. I'll be right over." David hung up his phone and hurried over to the table. While he was pulling out his chair, he noticed there were 2 sets of drinks on the table. He hoped that he hadn't kept her waiting long. "What, did you get lost or something?" she barked at him. He apologized. "I'm so sorry about that. I didn't see you sitting there. This was odd." David still had the text message on his phone. It was there in black and white. They had agreed to meet at the bar. Allison leaned over and playfully nudged him on the shoulder. "Guess I have one of those plain faces, huh?" There was a warm hint of sensuality in her voice and sent shivers down David's spine. "Oh no, not at all. There's nothing plain about you." Subtly just wasn't an option. He couldn't think of any other way to say it. This girl was perfect. She matched her profile picture to a T. She needed no filters or Photoshop to augment her already exceptional beauty. Nervous energy made David's legs twitch and vibrate the table. He quickly tried to change the subject and ease the awkwardness. He was sure even the people at the table felt. Wow, butchered that one too. Nervous energy made David's leg twitch and vibrate the table. He quickly tried to change the subject and to ease any awkwardness he was sure that even the people at the next table felt. "So, what looks good to you?" He asked as he was feverishly searching the table for a menu. "I'm thinking fettuccine alfredo. You?" Her eyes widened with disbelief. "After the dinner we had? I'm embarrassed to even think about food again." What was she talking about? He'd only just gotten there. Suddenly, a waiter showed up and slapped a check on the table. David's heart fluttered in disbelief. This couldn't possibly. But there it was before him. An entire meal itemized in black and white. David searched for his wallet in his pockets and found nothing. Where could his wallet have possibly gone? He was scouring under the table, assuming his wallet must have fallen out somewhere, when a loud, masculine, exuberant laugh erupted, springing David's head up and slamming it against the table. He climbed back to his feet and investigated the ruckus back at the bar. A man clothed in similar sports coat sat amongst the circle of friends. Brandishing a leather wallet with the initials DC, was making promises of free drinks for the rest of the night. Son of a bitch. What's the matter? Ellison asked. It's that guy over there, David explained. When I was up at the bar, the bastard must have stashed my wallet. Ellison tilted to the side to get a better view of the culprit. Stay here. I'll handle this, said David. Ellison gave David a look of concession. He puffed up his chest and steadied himself with his cane and took a slow, unbalanced stride back towards the bar. All right, buddy. Hilarious. Give me back my wallet. The man continued laughing amongst his friends. It was as if the words went right through him. Asshole, David poked and prodded at the man's shoulder. I said, give me back my wallet. This was the last straw. No more messing around. With all the force he could muster, David grabbed the man by his shoulder and forced him to turn around. He had a ferocious look in his eyes, ready to clobber the thief who had taken his wallet, and with it, his hard-earned money. David's rage turned into astonishment when the pair locked eyes. Looking back at him was none other than himself. What was going on here? A deafening silence overtook the room. He was staring into a mirror. Every blink, every facial tick, this person could match David with internet speed precision. It didn't stop at the face, though. His double could perfectly mirror any movement he preconceived. Suddenly, the look-alike let out a devilish smile, showing its first signs of life as a separate entity from David. He slid David's wallet into his coat pocket and gingerly slapped him on the shoulder, as if to say, thanks for letting him borrow it. He gave David an imperiling wink and casually headed out the door. Sound and life itself had finally returned as the humdrum conversations of customers flooded the airways once again. Hey, stop. Where do you think you're going? David was at pains physically and mentally. His bummed leg had rendered him unable to pursue the man. He was only just out the door while the man was already turning the corner at the end of the block. Leaning against a light pole to ease the pressure on his leg, David huffed and puffed. Sweat and tears poured from the face and startled man with a bruised ego. A nice date with a lovely lady had devoted into a disaster, seemingly almost before it began. Now, to make matters worse, there was someone running around almost identical to him. David peered into his wallet. Everything was there, save for a few bucks and his driver's license. Excuse me, sir. Is there a problem? A voice called out. Alice and one of the restaurant waiters had come rushing over to the light pole. What's the meaning of this? Did you get him? Allison asked, concerned. The son of a bitch got away from me. David lowered his head in shame. What's going on? The waiter wanted answers. Do I need to get the police involved? Maybe you do, Allison snapped. Someone tried to rob my friend. The waiter pressed on with questions. Did you get a look at the guy? Yeah. He looked... It was... David thought long and hard before proceeding. The sundry aroma of scotch and soda still emanating from his breath would do nothing to add to this credibility. Holding his tongue seemed to be the best and only option. David opened his eyes and reality slowly filtered through his senses again. That night had turned back into just a memory. He was back into the comfort of Dr. Shepard's office. Well, go on. What else happened? The doctor asked. I told them the guy threw my wallet down and ran off. That I really couldn't see his face. What was I gonna say? Excuse me, but that guy who looked exactly like me, that wasn't me? Now, if you don't mind, I won't be paying for the meal my date swears we ate together, or the drinks at the bar of full people who saw me by. Did you call the police that night? I didn't want to draw any attention to myself. I needed to figure out what exactly I saw. Dr. Shepard scribbled notes. So you didn't intentionally believe what you saw? I was drinking. I figured maybe I saw someone dressed like me and my mind was playing tricks on me. What made you think otherwise? David tapped his cane against the leg and thought to himself. About a week or so went by and everything seemed cool. Then one day, I was grocery shopping and it happened again. You saw him again? Not just me. Other people too. David's stroll down memory lane continued. It was 10 days after the first encounter. The whining buzz of an electric scooter echoed down the frozen food aisle of an A&P food store. A medley of foods and snacks occupied the front cart. There was just one more item that David needed from there. A can of chili, placed just out of arm's reach. Seeing no other option, David asked a woman passing by for some help. Excuse me, ma'am. His arm extended out towards the canned chili. Can you give me a hand, please? This weather is murder on my knees and my back. A thunderous clang erupted as canned goods slammed against the cold metal of the cart. He hadn't expected the woman to be so forceful. Thank you, I suppose? He was unsure of what else to say. Yeah, whatever. The woman turned and started angrily storming away. A faint whisper floated down the aisle. Asshole. Excuse me? Asked David. She continued moving away, ignoring him. What the fuck is her problem? The scooter beeped and David threw it in reverse and looped around the other side of the aisle. An elderly woman in her giant shopping cart blocked the path. Hey, would you mind just moving your cart over a little? The question went unanswered. Just a smidgen? Nothing. Perhaps she couldn't hear. The wheels on her cart whined and hissed, moving at a snail's pace. Son of a bitch. How could he get her attention? Looking down at the settings of the scooter, he turned one knob. If she couldn't hear him, perhaps a gentle nudge would get her attention. The knob clicked and set the new speed setting. David gripped Scooter's handle and twisted. Scooter violently nudged forward. That was faster than expected. The elderly woman cried out in pain. A mixture of flesh and metal plummeted to the floor. The aisle flooded with milk, broken eggs, sodas, and a variety of foods and beverages. I'm sorry, I didn't think I would go that fast. The one who had helped David in the previous aisle came rushing. Mom, are you okay? She helped the old lady to her feet. These two are mother and daughter? It couldn't get any better. That asshole smashed into me, she cried, tears streaming down her pale, wrinkled face. The daughter turned her attention over to David. You again? Ah, crap. If assholes like you wouldn't take all the scooters and left them for people who needed them, this wouldn't happen. I need this just as bad as anyone else, David protested. I have leg and back problems, damn it. He hated when people assumed his health went hand in hand with his youth. Many people have problems, not so obvious. A plethora of people filled the area to investigate the incident. One worker recognized David. Ah, jeez, not you again, the worker shouted. That's the third time this week. You know you're not allowed in here. Get on up out of the scooter. What in the blazes was he talking about? What do you mean? I've been buying my food here for years, David asserted. We have you on camera. Someone escorted you out of here multiple times, the worker explained. This is the last straw. I'm calling the police. While David was being escorted out of the store, he caught a brief glance of another man in a checkout line a few spaces down. There he was again, that mirror image of a man who had shown up to his date with Allison, once again looking and dressing the same. He chuckled and gave David a playful wave goodbye as the man he copied was evacuated from the premises. And here he was now, seeing a court-ordered shrink and charged with disturbing the peace. Never in a million years did he imagine his life would have turned out this way. Dr. Shepard put down her notepad. There was nothing else to say. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk through all this with me, David, she said. I think we're really making progress. How so? He asked. Well, she explained. To start, I think your grasp on reality has gotten better. What are you talking about? Do you remember the last time we went through this story? He sat up in his chair and pondered the question. Come to think of it, none of his sessions has ever been memorable. Dr. Shepard continued. The last time you told me this story, the other you played a much more significant role. Now he was just waving goodbye. Don't be ridiculous, David shouted. I've been nothing if not consistent with you. They all said they've seen me in there before, able to walk. If I could just see the damn security tape from the store, I could prove it to you, to everyone. I'm glad you mentioned that because I think there is something you need to see now. She retrieved a remote from her desk and started up what was looking like an old home movie. What's this? David asked as he focused his attention on the screen. The police released the security footage from the store, David, she explained. I think this is crucial to your therapy. You really believe there is a second version of you running the streets? Okay. Prove it and point him out. David thoroughly gawked at the screen ahead of him. He had expected to see just a scooter incident, but there was so much more. It was like he was peering into memories that were not his. There it was again. Irrefutable proof in black and white footage of him in the store and outside in the parking lot. Tape had everything from him walking perfectly inside and out of the store, not even a can. And in some other footage, he could see himself arguing with other customers, and in one instance from the parking lot footage, even keying a car. But he remembered none of this. The date of the last bit of footage flashed across the screen. He remembered this crystal clear. This was when he got escorted out for knocking the old lady down in the store's scooter. And the footage had a perfect view of all the registers. Here it came, the moment of truth. This was just what he needed to exonerate himself from the wrongdoing. Right there, don't you see him? David jumped up and pressed his finger into his glass screen. Dr. Shepard paused the video. Right there, another me. He squinted his eyes for a closer look. The ancient VHS tape flickered in and out of focus. What? David's jaw just came crashing right to the floor, if muscle and bone had not supported it. On the tape before him was nothing more than an empty checkout line. Dr. Shepard helped him back to his chair. Don't you see now? It's just you. It always has been. He had no words left in him. He thought for sure this was it. That he would finally get the exoneration he craved. He wanted to believe so badly that there was another explanation. Maybe there was another him, or maybe this was all just some elaborate prank. He wept, and the doctor handed him a box of tissues. We need to stop now because this is a lot to process. I understand how hard and scary this must be for you, but I want you to know how proud I am of you. These tears are telling me you're ready to accept reality for what it is, and now the real healing can begin. He still refused to speak. Okay, now I want you to double your dose of Abilify. I'll see you again next Tuesday, and after a month, let's see what happens. Do you understand? The most he could do was nod his head. He got up and turned to walk out of the office, leaving his cane. He didn't need or want it anymore. Outside of Dr. Shepard's office, David sat in his car trying to process his latest discovery. The rain beating down on his car perfectly matched his emotional state. The car pulled away, but he noticed that there was a silhouette of a man in his back seat. He slammed on the brakes. The silhouette leaned forward, revealing a face. David's face. The two locked eyes in the rearview mirror. Enough of this. David pushed through his anger and anxiety. Who are you? And for the first time, the other man spoke. The other half of you. Thinking quick, David locked his doors and threw the car into drive. The man flew back into the back seat and struggled to climb up from where he was just about to grab the steering wheel from David when he slammed on his brakes, sending the double flying through the windshield. How could anyone deny this? A broken windshield and the body to go with it. The double lay down on the street flat as a board for a few seconds. With the vigor of a dead bird, the man staggered back up to his feet and limped away. It all happened before David could realize what was taking place. First, the sound of a droning horn, then the sight of a body flying high in the air as another car passing struck it. Suddenly, View had all changed for David. He didn't know who he was or where he was anymore. One moment he was in his car, watching his mirror image fly through the windshield, and now he was face down on the street, eviscerated by shards of glass and concrete that had torn into his skin. Blood had shot from his mouth like a fountain, and his vision grew blurry. Before he lost consciousness, he could faintly hear the other driver. "Oh my God, man, what were you doing? You came out of nowhere. Don't you wear your seatbelt?" Everything went black. Approximately 1 week later, there was a memorial service in David's memory, with Allison, Dr. Shepard, and a few others in attendance. At the end of the service, the priest said a few words on David's behalf, and now he was saying goodbye to this brave young man who, after years of dealing with schizophrenia, may now rest easy in the long arm of our Lord. May he rest in peace. As the priest spoke, those in attendance whispered back and forth, discussing David and the many ways they knew him. He was such a fun guy to go out with, loved to eat. I was always ready to buy a round of drinks and get the party started. A little dramatic at times, don't you think? Maybe a bit harsh sometimes. That was him. And that's not me. Holy crap, I didn't even pay attention to everybody who showed up. Thank you all. Hey, Artzilla, Dea, and Anime made it. Sweet. Brittany, what's up, Brittany? Leela, and sweet. Hello, everybody. Hello, Deo. All right, guys. Well, I really hoped you all enjoyed tonight's story. And please, if you could, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Really, I don't care. Do whatever you want. You guys just have a great night, all right? See you later.